Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Come together morning show.
Good morning, come together morning show.
Are you just
don't know.
repeating me?
Yeah.
I like it. Hey.
Hola. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the We're Better When We Come Together
Morning show.
With-
I feel like that went all the way across our neighborhood. Did you?
The song?
Yeah.
I hope so.
Everyone
I sing
is
to
like,
please.
all of a sudden, like waking up from their beds, like, it is gonna be a
Okay,
good
okay.
day.
Oh, I see
Good
what's going on here.
morning.
We can do this.
Good morning. Yeah, that's what I'm picturing.
With Dr. Terry Murphy.
Chris Murphy. Yeah. Hi.
Morning.
Ooh, I'm sore from laying down all the time.
Getting a good workout of doing nothing?
I'm doing absolutely zero things. We spent the weekend in an act of solidarity and honestly feels like revolution.
Does it?
It does, because we deeply, deeply rested. We did nothing. We rested so incredibly well. And I feel like, I don't know if y'all feel this way, but we're brought up in this culture to feel like if you're not always being productive or rushing or doing every minute of every day, then it's like, what is your value? What are you doing?
Yeah.
And so I have to like make a conscious decision. I am going to rest. I'm going to rest.
You
And
have
then
to make a
that seems to be
conscious
better.
decision to not do. Yeah. Here, I'm trying to fix a little screen action here. There we
Okay.
go.
This
Yeah.
coffee's good today, babes.
Thank you.
Great job.
Okay, I want to hear from all of you too. I love the interaction already happening on both Facebook and Instagram. I'd love to hear what you did this weekend for self-care. As we talk about it, I'd love for you to just drop it in. Good morning. Hello there. Just drop it. What did you do for yourself? What felt like it was nourishing? If for some of you, you may not like how we have been in the past of like, I don't know, self-care. I don't know. I sleep. I try to eat decently. But we have been trying to spend the last several months, especially the last several months, trying to go deeper into self-care and what that means to really try to take care of ourselves. So love to hear what you all were doing. Yeah, we spent a lot of time resting this weekend.
Yeah.
And it was
I have
great.
the nest in my hair to prove it.
Yeah.
You took a nap? That's so wonderful, Jerry.
It's great.
One of my favorite Instagram accounts is called The Nap Ministry. It is amazing. They talk about how rest is an act of revolution, which is where that idea comes from. And it's just beautiful, this entire account. And it is run by some folks who have talked about how rest is part of really sort of pushing back against the sort of systems and ideas that hold us in place. Like a nap is just, it's not just a nap. In particular, you know, they're talking about the Black community and how rest is such an act of like, I matter, you know, I deserve to rest. I don't always have to be a cog, you know, in everything pushing,
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Yeah, true. We like you, Jerry, we decided to take a nap, take a rest, and it just felt so good. It looks like that.
Your journal, that's so
good morning.
great.
Let's
Watch
see.
Hamilton.
Did nothing. Watched Hamilton the musical. It was so good, and took naps. That's what I'm talking about. That's good. And
That's wonderful, y'all.
all of you that are putting in what you did for self-care this weekend, do you feel better on the other end having done that?
Went fishing, worked in the yard.
Yes, absolutely.
All of this is very exciting.
Good morning.
We got to spend some good time with the kids this weekend too.
We really did.
We happened to overlap schedules enough to like hang out a good portion of time. It was really fun.
Yeah, if you haven't heard us talk about this on the show before, we've spent this summer, and by summer I mean essentially anything
Since March,
after
really.
March
Yeah.
with the kids, because that's when their school let out and it never went back. Of trying to just let the kids do what they would want to do. And just see how that works. And so some days they go to bed about the time that we're waking up, and they wake up around the time that we're winding down in the evenings, and they party. Like I woke up at like 4:15 this morning with my kids arguing in the living room, and it's fine.
Did you really?
Yeah, I did.
I slept right through that.
yeah.
Just slept right on through.
But I had to go play referee at 4:15 in the
fun.
morning.
That's lots of fun.
But no, it's good that, you know, they were working it out. By the time I came in, they had kind of worked through everything, which is fun. But yeah, that's kind of one of the things that we've been doing. But yeah, I'm look, I love that even though you went fishing, you didn't catch any fish, you did it. And that's so important. The
Did you
people
see what
that
Caitlin say?
What's that?
My body sort of forced me into self-care and I was mad about it. Listen, yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. The way that I initially found self-care in a lot of ways, initially, when I first was coming to noticing that my body is finite and that my energy is finite and that I'm probably not as extroverted as I thought I was, is like this sense that my body would just take me to bed. And I don't know that that's exactly like you, Caitlin, but it was like I had to rest. I had to rest because my body would start to break down. I would run a fever for a day, or I would get really sore or something. And yeah, it's like Laura, exactly.
Laura knows that the body knows.
Your body doesn't lie. But we get really good at not tuning in, which it's perfect what we're going to be talking about today. We're talking about attachment, your attachment style. We're going to start from the very beginning. Let's start at the very beginning. Yeah.
Don't know where we're going now, but I'll listen to you singing a song until we get somewhere. Until we get somewhere.
We'll get there when we get there.
Yeah, I'm hearing everybody and agreeing with everybody. I also start feeling sick when I don't get the rest that I need, that I don't like, and I keep pushing, thinking that like, well, I don't want to be lazy. I've got to like push through it.
Fine. Wiping my nose, like this is great. Like I might not be able to feel my feelings or have rested in a long time, but I'm sure this is totally fine.
Right.
So we are going to talk a good bit about a secure base and a safe haven. These two terms that I want you to start getting really familiar with, and they're distinct. They're separate things that we're going to talk about. But your secure base is not only the person you're in relationship with; it is also you. Your home base. Yeah. That's who you are. So you need like a healthy, good home base that you are happy to show up in, that is going to be containing so much of the work that we're going to do. We're going to talk about the body. We're going to talk about your feelings and how emotion is rooted in your body. It unfolds from your bodily systems. So we're going to talk about that as well today. But let's do our check-in first. We check in every single day.
Every day. Check in every day. Every day. That's it. That's all.
I like it.
I like that one too. So for those of you who haven't been with us before, I'm about to tell you what our check-in is. For those of you that have, you can tune out for 10 to 15 seconds. Every Monday through Friday, we do a check-in here on the live show, and we ask you to put it in the comments. We do 1 through 10. How do you feel? If you don't feel very good, you put a 1. If you feel very good, you put a 10, and any number in between. And if you don't like numbers, you can do emojis if you want to. Get creative down there in the comments. Let us know how you're feeling. But we usually do it just 1 through 10, and that kind of helps to describe where we are at and where we've been in the last 24 hours.
I guess 7.5.
7?
Maybe 7. But maybe 7.5. I'm not decided on that last half of the number. I reserve the right to figure that out.
I hear you. I'm not going to force you to put in what that last part of the number should be.
I won't be forced, so that works perfectly. What's your number?
Wait, well, hold on. I just want to acknowledge everybody's 7s and 8s and 7 pluses and
Coffee.
8s and everything. And that's her number? It's just the emoji. Yeah.
I understand.
Yes, indeed.
I understand.
I think that today I'm starting off at a 6. So this is like the first time or the second time in like 2 weeks that your number is higher than mine.
Does that mean we've gone back in time? Like, what's the physics?
Gonna go back in time. Back in time. Wow, that was really good.
Thank you.
All right, now I'm moving it to a 7. That hopped up my number a whole point right there.
I knew it was not gonna last.
Did you say snot gonna last? That's gross.
Shh.
What?
I'm wiping my nose.
I'm feeling good today, and I'm feeling better and better as the day moves on. But I'm having a little trouble. I'll just be honest with everybody. I'm having a little trouble getting past the stories in my brain. When I woke up at 4:15 to deal with the kids, I didn't feel very good. And ever since then, I've been like, I don't feel very good. But every time I'm like, you don't actually feel that bad. I think that you just want to feel bad on this Monday morning.
Oh, I just really sometimes want to feel very bad.
But I don't.
Like if my emotions feel really bad, but my body feels good, it feels like a betrayal.
That's exactly where I
Yeah.
am. And so I've got some incongruity, but I've known over the last couple of months doing
So
this,
get it.
that sometimes just saying a number allows me to get in that headspace versus just like, I'm a 3. Because sometimes for me, I'm not saying that 3 is a bad thing, but for me, I've got to feel really low to be that far down on the number line. And so oftentimes it's a mental game more than it is an actual feeling. And so I'm recognizing that today my mental game is taking a bit longer to catch up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand.
There we go.
Nandita has a really good question, actually. So the number you feel in the morning is how you feel the rest of the day, or how you feel during the day is the number that you share the next day. So Chris and I differ in the way that we talk about numbers. So this is probably part of your confusion, is my guess, maybe, or maybe just your ask for clarification. We don't land in the same spot. Chris likes to think about the last 24 hours, and he'll say that to you. And that's probably how you work with clients also, and it's also wrong.
Yeah, I knew that. That's what she was saying. And he will say that to you, meaning like, and he is completely uneducated when it comes to throwing numbers out into the world. I can feel it.
No! I mean, I 100% think I'm right, but I also think you can be.
True. Yeah,
You don't
I
have to
hear you. I
choose
hear you.
who's the most right. It is
I'm playing with you,
definitely me.
girl.
So, and then for me, it's right in this moment. So whatever time of day it is, wherever in the world you are, the reason that I just have a specific reason why I do that. And so it probably comes just from 2 different places. For me, when I'm sitting with clients and when I'm doing this work myself, I need to know what I'm feeling right here, right now, in this moment, because that is what is true and present. I don't want to think about how I was feeling.
Yeah.
If feeling emerges from the body and the body really holds it right here, right now, then that is going to tune into how I'm feeling in this moment. Yeah. And then that will unfold for me if there's a need there. Then I'll be able to deal with it in the present. And it will shift. But there are different theories about past, present, and future. I'm a very present moment, in the moment, because I'm an experientially based therapist. And that's how I do work on myself as well. When I first woke up, I was at a 5, and now I'm at a 7.
Yeah, totally.
So that's perfect sort of example. And usually you can find yourself waking up at a pretty similar place if nothing major has happened to shift you up or down. And we've talked about our baselines. My baseline number typically is around a 5. Like if I wake up at a 5, that feels, my alarm bells are not going off around that. Like, oh no. Or, hey, like last Wednesday, I woke up at a higher number and it was noticeable for me. So sometimes too, my number will start at a 5 and I'll actually dip down as the day goes on too. It just depends. I'm very shifted by emotions, by weather, by something I read. If I read a story in the morning that hits me in a certain way, that can completely shift me in either direction. But I will say I probably tend more towards melancholy.
Yeah. Let me completely disagree with Terry and tell you why I do what I do.
Good.
Here's my disagreement. There is no disagreement. Oh! I don't even know why I did that. I went for like a hot take, and then I felt bad that I did the hot take in the moment.
You can do a hot take.
No, I can't. I'm ill prepared to hot take. I actually completely agree with her. In the moment is usually the best thing because we can kind of just like get that sense. I have had history from my own life and also through a lot of the people that I talk to in therapy that we have disconnected from our feelings for a long time. And so oftentimes I put out, how have you felt in the last day? Because sometimes when I'm talking to myself and when I'm talking to some other people in therapy, thinking about something right now, there's too much pressure. And so I have been accustomed to saying, how have you been over the last 24 hours?
You're reducing the pressure because you can relate empathetically, like you would feel pressure in that moment. Yeah. So Nandita was saying, do you think it's a pursue withdraw thing? And it very well could be.
It very, very well could be, yes. And I think that's a very astute point.
Observation.
Yeah. Did we both say astute at the same time?
Word of the day, astute. You have to use it in a sentence now. I'm just kidding.
Don't ask me to because I will not use it. Even though I used it up and then I'm done.
Day.
No, and so sometimes I think if I can't check in with where I am currently, either emotionally I can't go there, or for whatever reason my brain can't connect to my emotions, I then have to broaden out my search field to see where I'm at.
So you're just
then I can
scanning
come
for
back.
like literally any emotion will do.
Yeah.
Any sort of cue to let you know how you're doing.
Yes, and so
Yeah, well,
I
you've
completely
gotta
agree
start
with her.
somewhere,
Yeah,
right?
completely agree with her. Where we are in the moment is usually, I won't even say usually, it's the best determinator of where we currently are. But if you have a similar issue that I do, and
expand
that
your
other
search.
people, it's just widen it out. Go find, which is why sometimes we talk about, if you're riding that wave of emotion, put a wave emoji, put a surfer emoji in there, because sometimes it's like, I don't know where I am right now. I've been all over the place the last couple of days, and I'm spent, I'm exhausted emotionally. And so then broaden out that search.
We are gonna go like on a friggin' like the deepest of deep dives in emotion after we talk about attachment theory in this section, because we're building. I want you to build in the ability to care for yourself and to understand what happens to you in relationship all at the same time. That we aren't having to choose here between autonomy and connection. That you can have them both at the same time, but then you need to understand the interrelationship between your emotions and your attachment strategy. That both are gonna come into play. That your attachment style was developed historically from birth, and it shaped you all the way into adulthood. And by the time, same thing happened with you around how you deal with emotions, but you need to have them both online at the same time, all of these systems working at the same time to have secure attachment, which is the goal. And so we're going to talk about and break down what all that means. But any other thoughts before we shift into talking about attachment?
The only thing that I wanted to say is this building that we've been doing over the last couple of weeks and what we're going to be doing in the weeks to come. This is the reason that I was asking last week. If you know of anybody who would benefit from this, share this with them. Not for some sort of like audience building
We don't make any
campaign that we're doing.
Yeah.
We just want you to be able to get the most you can out of this. And if it is helping you, we would love for you to pass it on to someone else who could be getting a lot out of this too. And any sort of like, we can do a quick catch up to get everybody up to speed sort of thing. We're fine with that. We want you to get as much as you can out of this. Ask as many questions as you can. If we can't get to it, hopefully we'll go back and answer them at the end of the week. So if you know of anybody who would get something out of this, please feel free to share this on. And with that, let's move on into attachment.
Okay, so if you are familiar at all with the word attachment, hit like some hearts or some thumbs up or drop an emoji, some way that I can know that you have any sort of understanding of attachment at all. If there's therapists or anything that are in the group, I'm assuming that you probably do know a little bit about attachment, even if that isn't your modality. Good morning. Oh, maybe you're saying you do. Great. Kind of. Yep.
Yeah, here we go.
Shelley's got
Coming
some
in.
too. Wonderful.
And as we're going into this, I just
Some
wanted to
hearts.
agree with Robin over on Instagram of that, like, yes, sometimes my number is all over the place in the last 24 hours, which is a better reason to check in currently with where we're at, which I
Awesome.
completely agree. Well done.
Perfect. Okay, so what I like to do, my background is in chemistry, right? And so the way that you learn about some new sort of formula or equation that you're going to use, math and science both treat this pretty similarly, is you first need to have a good theoretical understanding that we're going to build off of. So it makes sure that we're all on the same page, that we have defined our terms in the same way, so that when we say the word attachment or we talk about a strategy or a style, insecure or secure, that we all know what we're talking about here. So we're entering into a world where definitions are operationalized. And what that means is we share a similar definition for those words, because if we're going to build an argument off of this, that we're going to start treating people, that we're going to start intervening, we need to make sure that that operation works the way that it is meant to work. So that's the reason that we're going to define a couple things right here in the beginning, is so that we're inviting us all into this conversation, so that when you're asking questions or if you're thinking about words that we're going to be using here, we are choosing them intentionally and on purpose in the best way possible to describe what's going on. Now, this is the area of my expertise. So if anybody who's got like a doctorate or an advanced degree in something too, doesn't just know everything there is to know about a broad subject area. So my doctorate doesn't mean that I know literally everything there is to know about therapy. That's not what that means. It's not a general sort of degree. It's actually quite focused. And my specialty is on attachment, it's on seeking help, and it's on sexual assault and trauma. So that's the area of my specialization. So I'm a trauma-informed couples therapist. It's my attachment and trauma pieces coming together. So you're going to hear that kind of language just so that you know me. Anybody else teaching about attachment theory, you would want to know what their specializations are, because that's going to color and inform the way that they're going to teach about the work. So we're coming from the same place.
Yeah.
Does that make sense
I love
to
that.
you?
Yeah.
Also,
it's a great jumping off point.
anything that you need to add, questions you have.
Heck no. I'm not
Right.
going to go against the PhD here.
We're going to roll on in. I don't know what to say to that.
I respect your education level and your expertise, and I'm going to let you introduce the subject, and I don't want to do anything that would jeopardize the understanding of that.
You want me just to pop your hand if you try to talk?
Yeah,
in the
like
middle of
this. So what
Which
I was
is not
thinking,
very attached, and then just bite you.
so I think that I need to say something like,
Crap.
yeah.
No violence is okay. None of that. Okay, so let's talk from the very beginning, and really from the beginning. So the field of mental health, very, very beginning,
Yes.
was founded based on looking at disorder. It came much more from a medical model. What do we do with all of these people that it doesn't seem to be like something wrong with them physiologically? That's not the core, it seems, at the time. Like, we can't just look and say, oh, you've broken a bone, let's set the bone, let's figure it out. These are people who were hospitalized or had issues that were more based on their mental health, anxiety, depression, suicidality, having different ways of thinking and seeing the world. Unfortunately, a lot of folks who were neurodiverse got caught up in the same sort of system, very misunderstood, because the field of mental health is not much older than around 50, 60, 70 years old. Not the way, especially, that we know it now, and certainly was brought very far forward with Freud and with Bowlby. So we're going to talk about them a little bit. So traditional therapy, this will be on IG. I'll post the story in IGTV as soon as we're finished. Yeah. Thanks for asking. So Freud had this theory that we were all neurotic, and if you're not neurotic, then you're psychotic. So you have a way of viewing life that life sucks and it's hard and we're all anxious, and so we got to reduce our anxiety in a lot of ways. And that adults really needed to be individual. You needed to talk about sex and your relationships with your parents. You go through these predictable stages, but once you finish with adolescence, you're done. And it is set in stone and it's fixed. Any of you still have that same idea that if it isn't sorted out by the time that either your kids are teenagers, then you've blown it, or by the time that you were an adolescent, it was just like kind of too late.
Can I just say
that blueprint?
That I don't agree with that, but I fight against it every day in my own life, and then
it's too late.
And the people that I talk to, doing therapy, coaching, whatever it may be, that is the big hurdle for me, is that I really don't believe that's true. But because I thought it was true for so long, I've been fighting against it.
A lot of experts said that it was true.
Yeah.
And they had good reasons for thinking this, because we didn't yet know about neuroplasticity in the brain, and that you can grow and learn new things all the way up until you die. As long as you still have the cognitive abilities and wherewithal, you can always be learning.
Yeah.
So John Bowlby came on the scene as a British physician and worked with these boys in Britain, and he wrote this amazing article on them and how they were thieves. And he started to realize that these boys, who no matter what they did, kept going out and getting into trouble and stealing and some other things, and it seemed like they came from some pretty similar backgrounds. So mental health really operated at like, whose fault is it? Who can we blame for this going wrong? Because there was this sort of sense, just like with bodies, that there was a right and healthy sort of way to be. And the goal, by the way, was white men. That's the default. And anybody who differed from that, really like middle to upper class, if you differed from that in any way, you might get stamped with like mental illness, not thinking quite right, hysteria, you might have heard of that, lunatic, like some of these horrifying pathologizing sort of terms got put on you. The schizophrenic mother, and family systems, families started to really be looked at and be blamed, but systemic theory, like we think of it now when it comes to therapy, like family therapy and that sort of thing, didn't really exist yet. So Bowlby started to notice that these boys, if they were attended to, if their emotional needs started to be met, they stopped thieving as much. And that's a way oversimplification. Highly recommend going and reading the original study. But Bowlby started to theorize that there was something more than just sex and aggression that is driving human beings. That this group of boys who were thieving and whatnot, it didn't make any sense. They shouldn't care about love at this point, right? That they were already teenagers and the rules should have been things were set in stone. These kids are just going to be screwed. Their families are going to be screwed. But this isn't what actually happened. These kids started to get better. And so Bowlby started to theorize, and we didn't have science yet. There was no research to back this up, which is why attachment theory has been called attachment theory for so long. Bowlby actually wanted to call it not attachment theory. He wanted to call it a theory of love. But being a scientist, no one would have really respected that. Like love was looked at as like magical, cuckoo. Yeah. Well, still to this day and age, like I'm a love therapist. I help people to love themselves and to love each other. That's really what I do. Do you want to be loved? Do you want to know why you can't let love in or why love doesn't ever seem to find you? That is what I do for a living. That's what attachment theory really is. So we're going to break down, because we know now, what is love? We know it from a scientific perspective.
Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me no more.
Yeah,
what is love? Sorry.
It was just artists that really understood more of what we were talking about. Or
I'm going to sing that song all day.
I want you to. So let's keep talking about this then. So Bowlby posited, he put forward this theory that what every single human being needs from the moment of birth to the moment of death is secure attachment in their primary caregiving relationships. So all that means is a secure base and a safe haven. These two terms, and you're going to hear us talk about this throughout. And they're two very different things, but they work in conjunction with one another. And the best way that I can describe this to you is, did anybody play hide and seek when you were a kid?
I did.
Did you have a home base?
I did.
Yes. And so think about this, that home base is the place where nothing bad can happen to you. Nobody can like get you, right? No bad guys can come in and get you. You're safe once you get to there. Yeah. But if you stay at base all the time, do you get to have fun and play and explore and any of that stuff? No. So secure base is not a place that you have to live. That's not what that's meant for. A secure base is the way you develop something, and it's a person. Your secure base tends to be a person. Initially, your mother, father, grandparent, foster parent, someone who cared for you, that you felt connected to, that when you reached out for them, they would respond to you, right? That you knew that they were available to you if you really needed them, and that they could be emotionally engaged with you. So that secure base starts to develop, and it can be really broad and really big if you had a lot of secure interactions, or it could just be like you can barely fit one toe on it. Right? Like you might not have a lot of attachment security if it was inconsistent or you didn't have people who did respond to you well. But the goal, if we're talking about the way you are wired to be, if everything lined up and you had caregivers that were accessible to you, available, responsive, and they could emotionally engage with you, then what starts to happen is you feel safe in your body. That's your biggest marker. So if I was checking in with you, how do you feel in your body right now? And you said, good, safe. And this is how I used to feel it when I first was talking about it in therapy. When I first started to notice security in my body, I would say, it feels like I can sit all the way in this chair, right? And I can take deep breaths. I feel calm. Like it's not numb and like I'm going to fall asleep, but like I'm alert, but I'm calm in my body.
Yeah.
So that's what it feels like to be secure. And from that, if you've got a secure base, you have a person that you know, a caregiver that you can count on. We see this in children, right? Is that you've got the secure base, you can go out and explore from that secure base, and then the safe haven part kicks back in. The same person is your safe haven. You know that you can come back to them through the threat, through all of that fear and excitement when you're out and about to get tagged, if we just use our metaphor, where are you going to run to if someone's chasing you?
Base.
Always back to base. And you don't have to try and decide, like, should I go to base or should I try to, like, I don't know, run to a different place and hide or whatever. Like, you want to get back to base as soon as possible. And what does your body feel like once you get back there? Safe, calm. You can breathe, you can relax, you can start to, like, take in more information again. It regulates you.
Yeah.
So this is how we start to learn to regulate ourselves, is from secure base, safe haven. And that's not a bad thing. When you move out away from your secure base, you get a little bit less regulated. We call this the leading edge of your experience. So depending on how secure that you feel, right? Like, I could see my kids do this. We would go to a new environment and James would, like, stand behind me and then, like, peek around my legs. And when he started to feel safe there, he would look at my body language, the body language of people. He would peek out a little more and then he would go play. But it was almost like an invisible sort of string connected the two of us. He could only get so far and stop, turn around, and then look at me.
Yeah.
Yeah, Caitlin, thank you for that. Andi Kolber's book, Try Softer, explains it really well. It is one of my favorite books. She tells parts of her own story too and gives you exercises. So, fabulous.
I want to read that book. Thank you for the recommendation. I have not read that
Can
one.
I be that person, or do you mean when I'm young? Yes, you can be the person. You, in adulthood, you can develop into a safe and secure base for you. Also, your romantic partner is going to be a secure base and safe haven for you if you're in a romantic partnership. That is adult love too. So when Bowlby developed that theory, he was thinking about children, that children needed this secure base, safe haven, that you first have your parent completely regulate you. So think of babies. I can't soothe myself, but my parent can hold me and rock me, and they completely regulate me. So it teaches my nervous system. If I call out, someone is going to come to me. They're going to hold me. They're going to regulate me. And then we start to co-regulate. I cry, you come, it calms me. I'm soothed, but I also am smiling back to you, and you seem to be in a better place. And we start to have this reciprocity in relationship. And then even just calling out for you can start to soothe me when I know that you're going to come. And I can tolerate the distance between us. So I don't have to physically have close proximity to you. And you see this in children as they grow up, that like our kids, I don't know when I'm going to see them today. They need less physical proximity.
Yeah.
Because if you are effectively completely regulated by a caregiver, and then you're really well co-regulated, you can internalize that attachment figure within you. And then you can go about your day, go to school. Remember when school was a thing? Or play outside.
Remember when we went into buildings with other people?
Right.
Yeah.
You can do that, and you keep that regulation system as part of you. So you are co-regulating even when you are not physically in proximity of another person. And that is secure attachment.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I never get triggered. It just means when I'm triggered, I know that I've got resources in other people. I can turn to my partner and say, I don't feel so good, or I'm scared. Or I can turn to parts of myself, the adult part of myself, something like that, and I can start to regulate myself.
So you remember earlier when I was talking about sometimes if you can't check in with yourself currently where you currently are, it is okay to let's broaden the search parameters and go out to 24 hours ago. How have I felt in the last 24 hours? Sometimes for adults, if we're sitting with them and they realize that they can't get in touch with where they are right now because it hasn't been safe, they haven't had the practice. We then think about, let's go back to when you were a kid. Did you have a safe place or a safe person that you went back to then? So kind of close your eyes and imagine, like when I was a kid, what did I do when I felt scared? Who would I go to and talk to if I felt scared? And if you can find that person or find that circumstance, then we can recognize maybe where we were as a kid, and then hopefully get to extrapolating that out to what we do now. Who do we go to now? So the answer is kind of yes and. Let's look at it through the lens of how we were when we were children. And if you're not children anymore, let's then try to figure out how we can bring it into present day and see where our attachment needs are. Yeah. Because not all of us are going to be securely connected. And so let's find out where we are.
56% of you will be.
There we go. So not quite 60% of people are securely attached. And so we fall somewhere on those lines of like, we need more of a secure base, or we need more of a safe haven. And where are we going to find that? We're going to create it in ourselves. Are we going to find loved ones to take care of us? And so that becomes a lot of the questions in therapy as what do we need to do specifically, uniquely for ourselves to begin to broaden out that life, to try to hopefully find secure attachment.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to
No,
interject
that's hugely important. So Bowlby published the first sort of work on attachment theory in 1969. That's how recent that work is. Before then, we pathologized pretty much anything. So like Bowlby's attachment theory work made it so that parents got to stay in the hospital with their kids, that young attachment was so key. Nursing really soon after birth, like it melds beautifully with the medical model. People heal faster when they're securely attached, physically faster. So we've done research studies on this even with adults. We know that kids who are securely attached tend to have greater self-esteem, self-compassion, hold themselves more accountable without shifting into shame. I mean, the benefits of secure attachment on your mental, physical, emotional health are pretty astounding.
Yeah.
So what happened though was that we didn't always apply attachment theory to adults. So we'd say that's all well and good for kids, right? Kids can cry, kids can whatever. But once you get to adulthood, the whole goal is for you to be completely on your own.
Like
totally
autonomous.
Independent,
Yeah.
Autonomous, individuated. I mean, there's differentiated. There's a million different terms in therapy and psychology. And the way they thought that you would do that is you can discard this need for secure base and safe haven. If you're an adult, you don't need that anymore. You should just be able to operate on your own, and the whole goal is to reduce anxiety. So Hazen and Shaver came along, two researchers in science and mental health came along, and in 1987, published Romantic Love as an Attachment Bond. Building on Bowlby's theory, they did clinical research. So this is not just another theory, but there's also research involved that they were really curious to see. So it seems like in observing couples, and the research was done on heterosexual couples, but we have since found that it's way more diverse than this. It's not just heterosexual adult couples, it's every human being across the entire gender spectrum in any kind of a relationship still are wired for secure attachment. So I'm just talking about the research so that you understand where that comes from, that it was limited to heterosexual couples. So that's the language.
Can I just say this? This is why this is sometimes a difficult conversation, because if the entire attachment theory idea is barely 50 years old, and then that was thought of more of something that we dealt with as kids, but adults, we should have this all figured out. But the adult romantic partnership piece has really only been in the vernacular 30 years.
Yeah.
And so can you see how it's so difficult? And I'm reading some of the comments, and I don't want to let them pass by without acknowledging some of the difficulty for us as adults to feel like we need to have it all together. Because I'm an adult now, I need to be able to go like, I'm an adult. I figured out all the issues and all the trauma and all that stuff that built up to the point that I turned 18 or 21 or whatever age you felt like you were an adult. Like, I now am not supposed to have any problems anymore. Because if that was like the language that we had in like the educational field of like putting out papers, you know how hard that is to like disseminate out into the public at large? Over time, we're still getting those messages that, you know, if you are 30 years or older, you had adults raising you that probably haven't heard this idea that it's okay once you're an adult to still have needs, to still have issues that you're dealing with.
Or if you want someone else to love you, you first have to just only love yourself, when we know that it's actually backwards.
Yeah.
That the way that we conceptualize love is based on who first loved us. And that's why a lot of the trauma that we carry in our bodies, the anxiety we carry in our bodies, we get so confused about, especially if you were provided for, adequately had food and shelter, but just still something's just a bit dysregulated inside. You can probably look back to attachment, you know, and be curious about that. Like, what were the messages I got around having needs growing up, around being hurt or being sick? You know, did I have someone that I could turn to, that I could really count on? Those are important questions. Yeah, Caitlin, thank you so much
Yeah.
for sharing about your anxiety too. Yeah, me too. It didn't come up in me until after I had kids, and then that's when I went to therapy.
So I wanted to just acknowledge Nandita and how that feeling still comes up for you, that you may be taking advantage of putting out your vulnerability. I completely get that. I have a lot of those same fears myself, that if I am my true self and if I
Yeah.
put myself out there, it will be used against me. So I completely see what you're saying. And Caitlin, just want to honor you as well for like doing the work. Doesn't matter how old we are, that
never too late.
still doing the work allows us to be a little bit better tomorrow, and then hopefully a little bit better the next day. And again, it's not a panacea. I'm not saying that if you hear what we're saying here, all of your issues will go away, but
Yeah.
hopefully we're putting a piece out there so that we can all absorb it, learn from it, and hopefully grow from it.
Yeah. Two caveats too. Number one, there's nothing wrong with you. That if you have insecure attachment, that's not because it reflects personally on you in some sort of way that you're not doing enough or that you need to like be different. It just is about the quality, the messages you got around love growing up.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about what those really look like. I thought I had it all together till I became an adult. This is Hillary. No idea how anxious avoidant I am until age 25. That's what happens though. It's when we get into adulthood that sometimes it's like, oh, this is a little different than I kind of thought. Like, what the hell is going on? I don't know if any of you felt that.
No, yeah, I thought I had it all together until well into my 30s, and everything, like the things that I had planned did not come to fruition. And so it then all started kind of falling apart for me, which began my journey of putting that out there, sitting with a therapist and talking about it out loud, which has ultimately, through some of the healing that I did there, I'm not completely 100% even over it. I still have a lot of that stuff come up. But some of the healing that I had from those days sitting in a therapist chair is what I realized that, like, I think that I would like to provide this service for other people as well, which is why I sit here today talking to you, is because this is the important stuff of life. Because if we just kept acting like we were all fine, then we would all be thinking everybody else is fine but me. And so let's go ahead and debunk that rumor right now. None of us are okay. Some of us are at different stages in the game than other people. But let's say where we are, let's take stock every day. Where are we at? 1 through 10. We'll go back to where we were 30 minutes ago. Check in with ourselves. What do we need today? And so that we can move forward and hopefully be a more whole version of what we need today for ourselves.
Yep. Well, and we don't talk about it much, but your culture, the family that you're born into, the race and ethnicity that you are, your trauma narrative, like your story, all of those things are going to come in and impact your attachment strategy. So if you grow up in trauma, like racism, for example, or if you're growing up in a neighborhood where there's violence, which we already know that if you're from a marginalized community, if you've gotten kicked out of your home for some reason, or you've not had generational wealth, you are going to have higher levels of trauma. And just the fact that it's much more likely that something negative could have happened to your parents, or that they're having to work multiple jobs to take care of you, means they're not going to be as accessible and home with you to do things. So this is where we see the generational impacts. And what sucks so bad is that we tend to blame individuals in America for systemic problems and tell you that you individually are responsible for changing yourself and getting back to being okay and normal, when that system of health, of normalcy, was developed on white males of privilege that didn't have those sorts of oppressive, race-related, gender-related, sexuality, sexual orientation sort of things baked in right from the very beginning. So a lot of our work is going back and saying, wait a minute, what parts of this are systemic? What parts of this are cultural? What parts of this are oppressive? What parts of these are gender sort of binary stereotypes? Because these matter too. Anywhere that you aren't what your culture considers to be the default, you are going to have some anxiety and some questions about your security and safeness, and you should. Like, that makes a lot of sense. And the more that we can start talking about those sort of things and start healing at a bit of a larger area, the better that your personal mental health is going to be too. If the system is sick, we're limited on how healthy we can get individually too. And we have to talk about that as well.
Yeah.
So even in the language and some of the research that we're sharing, you're going to hear that there are some individual sort of things that you can do, because that is what we do in therapy, is we're wanting to change systems, but we intervene on an individual level. But that's not the same thing as thinking that the individual is the cause of whatever the issues are, because I don't believe that. I think it's much larger of an issue. Is that making sense?
I love that.
Okay, so the thing that I think is important here to remember, and we're going to keep talking about this tomorrow, is that we are aiming for secure attachment as best as possible. And the way that you find secure attachment is to first find the places where you don't feel secure. Like, it's doing an assessment.
Yeah.
Kind of like we check in on the numbers and figuring out where you are. And it's all a continuum. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the continuum tomorrow, about where you land, what your move is based on all of this stuff, like your attachment strategy in that sort of way. So if you like, you can go and take this quiz for free. It's not my quiz. It's called the ECRRS by Fraley. In 2006, Fraley started making publications on your relationships across parents, significant other, friendship. You can go and take this assessment and you can find out, based on the way that you answer the questions, where you fall, secure or insecure attachment. And we're going to break down what secure attachment is, like more from a scientific sort of perspective, and then some practical ways that can show up in your life. And then the 3 different forms of insecure attachment. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Oh, go ahead.
Can I just say this piece as well? That I'm just reading along a few of the comments, and I just wanted to say sometimes, I think that this is supporting or at least adding to what you were saying a second ago. Sometimes we don't know where we currently are. And so we have to unearth some of those things of realizing what some of our issues have been, either presently or in the past. And that's okay. Sometimes we have to find out who we're not in order to find out who we are. We have to find out, I don't want this in my life right now. Whatever this circumstance is or this trauma from the past, I need to get rid of it. And so those are going to yell at you louder than the things that you know that you want to do moving forward into the future. So I just wanted to put that out there. If you're a little confused right now, that is okay. That is okay. You don't have to have all of the answers right now. Sometimes just being here and having the confusion is enough. And just hopefully absorbing, listening to people like us, not just us, but people like us, your own therapists, and taking that journey for yourself, hopefully can over time provide some alleviation of that fear, that trauma, or at least give you some supportive tools in order to move forward with it. So you don't have to have it all together right now. I'll just go ahead and raise my hand and say, I do not have it all together, but I'm waking up and I'm attempting to make it a little better every day. So just a little bit of encouragement out there for any of you who may be thinking like, well, this is all well and good, but I've got so much work to even get to this point. That's okay. That's okay. I'm in the trenches every day too, just trying to figure this out as well.
Yeah. I'm going to leave you with this quote. Stephen Porges, who highly recommend reading or immersing yourself in some of Stephen Porges' information, but he works a lot with polyvagal theory, which we've talked about here. How do you feel safe in your body? A lot of somatic experiencing sort of work. And what Stephen Porges said is, you feeling safe is the work. That's the work. So every single time that you're checking in, you're ranking sort of your number and where you are, and you're accepting yourself and you feel safe in that moment, even just you with yourself, that's the work. You are tuning your nervous system into what it feels like to feel safe and secure. And that is beautiful, wonderful work. That's why rest is so revolutionary. Does that make your body feel safe? Does drinking a glass of water right now help you to feel better in your body? These are things that we want you to start tuning into and caring about, so that you can closer approximate what safety is for you. It's unique to all of us. There's some things that tend to overlap, but you figuring out who you are and how you feel best in your body is going to be a gift no matter what, and is essential. Like, that's foundational stuff. It's where we start from the beginning.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to hop off and we will chat with you tomorrow. If you want, I can drop the link to the quiz.
There we go.
In the Facebook group. So facebook.com/groups/come together group. You can find everything there.
Could you give it to us just one more time? Just the URL, what you need to search for.
I don't know the URL off the top of my head.
Is it the ECRES?
think it's ECRRS.
ECRRS.
The one that I'm talking about. Yeah.
Okay, great.
With Fraley. It might be ES, but I think it's RS.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you all for joining us this morning. We've loved your comments. We've loved your honesty.
Great.
We've loved you sharing. We've loved the questions that you've asked. Keep them coming. Again, if you know somebody else that would benefit from this as well, we'll be right back here tomorrow morning, Monday through Friday, 7-ish
It's attachment week.
Central Time here in the States. And so we try to go live here as close to 7 as we can. But we would love for you to share this with somebody else who may get something out of this. So we love you all.
Thanks, y'all.
You got this.
Thanks for being here.
Go rock it out today. Enjoy.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.